like I said last week, there's lots of stories and folklore about the devil that I want to look at over the next few weeks. But today I want to share one of my favorites that I found so far. It is from the Zulu tribe in South Africa. This one is about the river demon and his grandma. Oops, wrong book. Okay. In an African village, there's this group of young women, and they all banded together to humiliate one of the girls in the tribe who they were jealous of, and they kind of rejected her because she was different. But especially, it seemed to them that she had a necklace of beads far more beautiful than any of their necklaces. So these jealous young women run down to the banks of the river where they planned a trap for the envied one. When she joined them, they told her they had all thrown their necklaces into the river as an offering to the river god. So the young woman, being a person of generous heart, at once rips off her necklace and throws it into the river, whereupon the others dig their necklaces up, which they had buried in the sand, and ran off laughing and sneering. Well, the young woman, left all alone, of course was very sad. She had been duped into a well-meant but foolish act. She wandered up and down the riverbank, crying and praying to the god to restore the necklace. There was no answer until at last she heard a voice from somewhere bidding her dive into the pool nearby. She did not hesitate because she thought it must be the voice of the river god, and plunged down into the unknown and found herself on a riverbed where an old woman sat waiting. Well, this old grandmother was exceedingly ugly, repulsive even, and she was covered with open sores. And she immediately spoke to the girl and said, "Please, lick my sores." At once, the girl felt pity, and out of her compassionate heart, licked the repulsive sores as she had been asked to do. Then the old woman said to her, "Because you have not held back and have licked my sores, I will hide and protect you when the devil comes who devours the flesh of young women." Right then she heard a roar, and a huge monster rose out of the river, saying that he smelled a maiden. But the old woman had hidden the young girl, and he could not touch her. Then the old woman said to the girl, "Here is your necklace." And she put around her neck beads of far greater beauty than any she had before. "Go back to your village now," she directed her. "But when you've gone a few yards from the pool, you will see a stone in the path. Pick up this rock and throw it back into the pool. Then go on without looking back and take up your ordinary life in your village." Well, the young woman, of course, obeyed, threw the stone, and went back to the village without a backward look. Once the other girls noticed she was back, they quickly noticed her beautiful new necklace and clamored to know where she had found it. She replied that it had been given to her by the old woman at the bottom of the pool in the river. Not waiting for more information, they all rushed off and jumped into the pool, and the old woman said to each of them, just as she had before, "Please, lick my sores." But these girls all laughed at her and said they wouldn't dream of doing anything so repulsive, and they demanded to be given necklaces at once. In the midst of all of this, there came the roar of the river demon, who seized upon each of the girls, one after the other, and made a mighty meal of them. The end. Okay, so let's go through all the literary devices present in this story, because there's 7 I want to touch on. I think they're super cool. First of all, Mean Girls, am I right? Just kidding, that's not the first one. The first one is the necklace. See, the necklace in Africa is a highly prized symbol of a woman's identity and worth as a person. So the group of girls in this story plays a particularly unkind trick, since it concerns this devotion to the divine and to oneself. Secondly, the Mean Girls trap. See, this is a warning of the dangers that exist for the generous-hearted, because they're quickly influenced by some good cause, but deep down, if they're honest, what they're really looking for is to be accepted by the cool kids. And then they lose sight of their individual responsibility to reflect and to choose. Because of this, often in these stories, the plot line is they throw away their identity. But in this story, we're shown that that shock that leads up to her coming out of groupthink ends with the discovery of her deeper meaning as an individual. Thirdly, the water. It's by going down, not upwards and out, that she finds herself. She has to plunge into the river of life and risk failure and mistake, and only by trusting herself to the unknown does she find her unique way in the world. She had to listen for the voice that's heard by characters in these stories only at those very pivotal moments in life. It's Very King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Fourth, the grandma. This old woman is a metaphor. And she's a metaphor for those despised, repulsive things in our own psyches that we refuse to acknowledge and we turn away from in disgust. Fifthly, airplanes. The saliva. The saliva is healing in these stories. It's symbolically these healing waters that people are born with. So think of like Jesus' saliva on the blind man's eyes, or the way animals lick their injuries to heal wounds miraculously. So the girl is being asked to give her own unique essence, to bring healing to the woman's sores, not with necklaces or words, but with water from her own mouth. 6, the demon. He represents inauthentic masculinity, and he's big and loud and obnoxious, and on a surface level looks quite powerful. So in these stories, the temptation's very real for the protagonist to be impressed by this and desire that power and influence that the devil wields. But if you do so, you compromise your true values. So the grandmother here rewards the young woman, but, and this is why I love this story, rather than the normal hero motif of picking up the sword and slaying the dragon, the devil's grandma says to the young woman, because of your compassion, you are protected from that power. So cool. 7th, the necklace upgrade. Bling. This is her new identity, coming into her true self, because that devouring ambition and greed had no power over her, because she had the courage and humility to lick the repellent sores. At this moment, she doesn't just recover her old necklace. That came from her family before her initiation into life. This necklace is hers and hers alone. So, those are the 7, and my invitation to you this week is thusly. How bravely are you able to rise above groupthink and not point out there and blame some other worldly entity for your victimhood, and instead look in the mirror at how you contribute to your own situation? Because I'm finding the invitation in many of these devil folk tales is not to identify some outward enemy, but to look for the inward one, and then look in the mirror at the real power you hold to do good or evil in this world. Maybe later.